Well, the tour bus just pulled up. Little family get together today. We're going to Ingleside Winery via boat ride from Tappahannock, Virginia. More lake. Heading east on 360 into Tappahannock.
I couldn't figure out because I wanted to say something, you know.
A little hazy today, but it is early in the morning too.
And Luke took over his practice. They brought her
Coming into Tappahannock.
and I went to see her, but at the time it was way out in, where it's Innsbruck is where she was.
It was way
but
out
it
there.
was way out there then, and I just don't.
They got somewhere to sit, I hope.
Huh?
They got somewhere to sit, I'm sure. We're in Tappahannock, and we're going on the Rappahannock River Cruise, and the boat is over here. Captain Thomas River Cruise. There's our crew.
Motley Crue.
It'll be 2.5 hours.
Oh, okay.
More fun than we can stand, I bet you.
A lot of people do.
You just smell like sour.
Captain's chair. We haven't left yet, but it won't be long. Watching the traffic go down 360.
You do have to hold the button on the side of the cabinet just long enough your wouldn't be pumped up down below. Now keep in mind that we are on a boat today, so our lines are very small and easily called, so please do not put paper towels or other foreign objects down the commode.
Okay, let's don't
Now,
talk
light
about
jackets are
toilets.
located down below underneath the seats and also stored above here in the lower cabin. We also have 2 boxes nearby the powerhouse full of life jackets. Now, as soon as you get in the way, one of the crew will be moved around the life jacket to help demonstrate the proper use of the life jacket. Now, when moving around the boat today, please use extra caution. Our stairwells are very steep and use our hands to protect the seat. Now this barge will come in here and load anywhere from 80 to 100 tractor-trailer truckloads of grain, and then carried off to ports in Salisbury, Maryland, where the bigger chicken factories are located.
There are 4 life rings located around the boat. If you have to put one of these on, all you have to do is slip it on over your head, take the belt, wrap it around yourself, and buckle it in the middle. Is there any questions?
outside, there's a tornado took down back there. First time house, over the ground.
The hurricane. They made for life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a joke. Look at
He got a
this.
fish.
Look at this fish. Where now got this fish?
I thought he had it in his hand when he got
Oh,
it.
did he? Years old, something like
No, I didn't see that.
that. What did you tell me about it? Huh?
That was on too.
Yeah. That was nice too, right?
I know we walked along and stumbled up on We left the dock this morning at 10 o'clock. It's about 10 minutes to 12, and we're getting to a narrow spot in the river, so it shouldn't be much longer, I don't think. Sure has been a nice day. There's a lighthouse on the side of the bank. Can't see what it says. What did it say, Ricky? Sure does, no. I think we're coming in the dock at the winery. And their bus is our next mode of transportation.
Here, fellas, down
and then it remains that raised church leads down Resolution or Sod. Now, like I said, we will be caught up in just a second. That's a big carry us over to the winery. It is a short ride, just a couple miles up the road to Vineyards. Now, you even if you would like to wait here for a bit, just don't forget your lunch tickets or your lunch if you're running, because we will be having that at the winery. Now, I am going to split quite a bit of two separate groups. Can I have everybody who are bringing their own lunch today to please go on that first bus? If you bought the lunch from the winery, you can go on that second bus that will be arriving. Like I said, if you're bringing your own lunch to the winery today, make sure you go on that first bus at the bottom of the hill. Everybody else can go on that second bus that you see. So we'll be arriving here in just a second.
Well, it kind of forked over. Look at another concrete stuff there.
Used to be a bridge here.
You think so?
I don't know.
up here. It's here. It's college.
Yeah.
Somebody usually turns her around.
I wonder if anybody bring the lunch.
Luxury, I think.
Man, we could have had some fried chicken.
Yeah, we could. Whoa. T-Ray. Yeah.
When they just announce it,
You attack your collar sometimes.
That's what they're there for.
Better knock them down, knock the better down. Huh?
Cool dog.
Y'all on the bottom, y'all all waited to get off land?
Yeah.
Aren't y'all nice people?
We're going to take her one leg at a time, one arm at a time, and take her up the steps to the bus.
Hey, watch your behind.
Yeah.
Make sure, he just needs something soft to fall on.
It's the one of the things I don't remember in history class. But I do want to come back over here.
Station home. And this is where the Flimmers live, the people that own the winery. This home was originally built as a George Washington Academy for boys and was used as a Union garrison during the Civil War. This home is not on tour except for during Garden Week. They do have a small tour of the home. And to give you an idea of the size, there are 42 rooms and only 2 people live there. Yeah. Work and then the tasting. All right, let's go eat.
I don't know who he is, but I would love to. Somebody please tell us. Oh. You think he was good?
We are one of over 260 wineries in the state of Virginia. Virginia is the 5th largest state in the nation now with regard to numbers of wineries, and we were one of the first. We started producing wine here in 1979. We've been at it now, I guess, about 36 years. We were one of the first 5. Obviously, this place at one point in time was a dairy farm. The manor house over here, which we don't get to tour, Mr. and Miss Lemon still live there. That was originally built as a boys' school back in 1852. Did lots of things over the years. But now also, you probably noticed some other stuff growing on the road. This is one of the largest commercial nurseries on the eastern seaboard. You saw stuff, ornamental shrubbery. 6,000 cases this year of wine, depending on how the weather goes for the next couple of weeks. We have had, admittedly, probably a lot more moisture than we would really like under optimum conditions. Grapes like it hot and dry, not quite as hot as we've had it. I mean, we went through a couple stretches there when it was too hot for almost anything. And then we had too much moisture on top of that. So that confounded the situation where we're going to start picking probably maybe tomorrow or the next day. And we're going to have to start picking very quickly because under these weather conditions, the grapes mature and then they start to rot almost instantaneously. It's almost like, it's very much like tomatoes. So we need as much. And when we start picking tomorrow, the next day, probably tomorrow, we will start taking these yellow baskets. They're called lugs, and we'll start lining up the rows of the vines. Now, then when we start picking, it only takes about 20 people to do the complete harvest here because the grapes mature in a sequence, and it doesn't all happen at one time. And it's always the same sequence, year in and year out. We'll start with Pinot Grigio, and we'll end up with one of our sweeter grapes, Petit Manseng. And you're going to actually taste Petit Manseng in two different wines, as two different style wines, which is pretty neat. So we use these little things called pruning shears. You've all seen pruning shears, and we'll start picking up whole clusters, cut them off, put them in those baskets, and then when they hold about 40 pounds apiece, we'll bring them here to the crushing platform on the back of flatbed trailers. Now this is the primary piece of processing equipment. It is commonly referred to as Ethel and Lucy. They're always jealous. It's the acidity which allows the fruitiness to come out. And you want wines to have a balance between the acidity and the fruitiness. Keep in mind when you're doing your tasting, fruitiness and sweetness are not the same thing. Sweetness is just a sugar content coefficient. And you're going to taste wines from no sugar, which has been totally fermented till all the sugar has been converted to alcohol, all the way up to a wine that's about 10% sugar. And along with that, keep in mind that a Coca-Cola is about 12% sugar. Shoney sweet tea is about 17. So when you taste that first wine that's 1%, everybody's going to go, ooh, this is sweet, but it's not very. And then try and taste the difference between the sugar and the fruit. And different wines have different flavors of fruit. People think, well, God, do you add strawberries, or do you add leather, do you add pepper? We don't dump any of that stuff in there. We only make real Vitis vinifera wines, and those flavors are what come from the fermentation process. Now, fermentation is a natural chemical reaction. If you took grapes and just broke them and stuck them in a pan outside, there are yeast spores floating around in the air, and they would attack that liquid and cause the conversion. Sugar is the fuel, and the byproducts are heat, carbon dioxide. Fermentation goes on. Most fermentation, as I noted, goes on in stainless steel these days. Then in the whites from this year, the 2016 harvest whites, they'll be ready, they'll be fermented and bottled and ready by the first of the year, just after Christmas. Now some of the red wines, they may not be ready for as much as 3 years. Because again, the reason you age red wines is because you have to dissipate some of the acidity. The largest tanks here, they're about 1,700 gallons. Roughly a couple weeks to ferment 1,700 gallons of red pulp. You will notice that the larger tanks have a dimpled part, and that's where there's an inner and outer skin. And in between those, we can pump a coolant liquid called glycol, and that's how we keep a handle on the heat. You don't want to let it get too hot. Heat is a real culprit to everything with regard to wine. Of course, heat and oxygen. But anyway, and that's also how we can make sweeter wine, is by leaving in whatever level of residual sugar we want by dropping the temperature way down to just about freezing real abruptly, and then you filter out whatever yeast bodies are still there, and that keeps the wine from getting active again when it gets back to room temperature, because that would make the bottle explode. You don't want that to happen. So anyway, so that's why we have different size fermentation tanks, because you want that to be filled with liquid. You don't want about 100,000 cases. Well, I don't know about this year. This year's not running out to be so hot.
Yeah, I would have thought with the extra rain it would have been a bumper crop.
Rain, grapes like hot and dry. I mean, in the last 2 years, they're making wonderful wines in California, and it's been a drought. Now, they don't have very much of it. But the grapes love, I mean, they're raisening up out there, but the juice is very, very concentrated. Now, the wines are going to be very expensive, but some of those people are just salivating and just saying, I don't want it ever rain. We would love for it never to rain after the 4th of July, because it almost never happens. But we had some days when it was, like 102, and then we got 4 inches of rain right after that, and that was just like,
That piece of equipment is where the wine is bottled, corked, and finished off. And comes over here, it's labeled, it comes down the belt, and then they put it in cases. Yeah.
Pencil.
Thank God.
Alright, got a little tasting sheet there. What we're going to do with this sheet is you can put your name on the top of it if you like, and then make little notes as you're tasting your wine. And then you can use that sheet when you go in the other room to purchase your wine. At the bottom of it, there's a little part that you can fill out that you can get in on lottery for a VIP tasting here. So fill that out, rip it off, and just leave it right in here. Okay? I'm going to cut the music. That's the name of it. How did you get that nice glass?
Where'd they get it? Yeah, they're the ones that said.
They're cheating. They're hitting us right now. Get it way around here, guys. Okay, this is a steel fermented Chardonnay. There is no sugar in this wine. It's a completely dry wine, which Chardonnay is usually a dry product. This is going to be nice and light and crisp and citrusy and minerally. You should taste like apples and peaches and pears in this. She figured it out. This one? Like I said, y'all remember to fill out the bottom of these sheets, rip it off and leave it right here. We'll put you in for a drawing for a VIP tasting here, and use the top of the sheet, put your name on it, use it to make notes, and take that in the other room with you later on to purchase your wine. You are going to taste this as two different wines. This is a real popular grape here in Virginia. You're going to taste this now as a 1% sugar table wine, if you will. Means it's nice to go with food, nice to go with meals. Then at the end, you're going to taste this as a dessert wine, much, much sweeter.
This is where you can buy all the finished products. It ain't cheap.
I don't know what it was. Paying $3 for something. What do you do? Rick, what do you do?
It's time to go back to the boat.
Old ones, I think, may be gone.
Every time it is, my computer says you will bring them the SD card.
These are the oldest grapevines they have. Almost as old as this bus we're at. Back up on the boat. Ready to go back.
ahead, I have our land.
I guess this is a party place on the Rappahannock. Lots of people over there today. Two-hour boat ride back, but we're finally here. It's 4:30. I'm ready to go home. This is the creek where the boat docks. That's some of our crew. Mark. And we can't wait. And Bonnie, Cameron, Richie, Linda. Where's Betty? Oh, there's Betty. Betty. And Scott. We got the back of the boat covered.
Information to other cruises can be found on our website, or you can use the number you call to make these reservations. The number's the same for all three of the cruises. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed the cruise today. Please have a safe ride home, and don't forget your wine. It is located down below in front of the snack bar.
That's a Purdue grain barge. That's pretty daggone big. They put all the grain in those silos. We're ready to come into our dock, I think. began. We're ready to head back to Richmond. There's the Clark family truckster. Home sweet home. We're finally back. It was a great day.
Bruce, I hope you feel better, Bonnie. I hope you do.
Thank you.
Let's go drink some wine.